capitalize on compounding interest in order to build that endowment. We do spend money periodically. We do contribute thousands of dollars each year for the purchase of uniforms, and we also fund some one-time projects. The bulk of the money actually goes into that endowment fund and continues to grow. Believe it or not, the foundation's endowment is currently over $900,000, and we're hoping within the next year or two we're going to reach our goal of $1 million. When we hit that goal, we plan to start investing a good share of the annual interest back into the athletic community, along with the normal stuff that we typically done. It's an amazing rainy day fund. Who could have ever imagined we have that kind of money set aside? It wasn't all that long ago when school districts across the state were having to have a difficult discussion about whether or not they should cut some sports. And that's a discussion we never want to have in the Detroit. Thanks to what we're doing here and the district club, I don't think we're going to have to deal with that problem. The other thing we want to make sure is to make sure that sports are accessible for all kids, not just those that can afford it. In Detroit Lakes right now, the lane card per sport is still well under $100. In some of the communities nearby, they're over $200. And believe it or not, some parts of our region, the prices have bumped up to about $300 per sport for kids to participate. That's not right, because kids should not have to choose which sport that they want to be in. We got kids that want to be in 3 or 4 sports, they sure will be in 3 or 4 sports.
Yeah.
So that's our goal, is to make sure that any kid that wants to participate has that opportunity. As long as we're on that, it's going to happen. And it's not this current committee that started all this. I want to take just a minute and kind of go back and recognize it. Back in 2001, when this was first founded, actually, our 3 primary members that got this going are here with us tonight. Well, they did a committee just like we've got now. And the committee did a lot of work, but I just want to recognize the 3 that really kind of got the ball rolling on this. So, my good buddy Mike Arzon, could you please stand with me? Manke. Athletic Director Rick Manke. There's been a lot of committee members through the years, and some of them are here with us today. These 3 gentlemen are the ones that really got this thing started, so thank you again for all your efforts to do that. So, we've talked a lot about what the foundation is and who got it started and what the purposes are. If anybody wants to learn more about it, we do have some brochures on the front table where you get in at registration, or you can take a look at our website. But now we want to move to the next phase, and that's to recognize those people who are here on our team. We will be inducting 8 individuals and 1 team into the Hall of Honor this evening. Andy Leah, retired cable line sports director, and Laker legend, has agreed to be our master of ceremonies tonight. And he's done this several times, and he's really good at it. He and I were speaking on the phone the other day, and in the middle of our conversation, I actually started laughing because I could just picture him back on the radio. It felt so good to be able to hear that. So here's how we're going to do it, is that Andy's going to read a short bio for each of our inductees. Each inductee has selected their own individual person to come up here and introduce them. So after Andy does the introduction, both the introducer and the inductee could please come up together. Then that person will do the introduction. The inductee will hopefully share a few words with the group tonight. I'm not going to force you, but we would like to hear a couple words from your mind. And then after they're done, they're going to go back to their seats and we'll bring up the next group. And as is tradition, the head coach will introduce the team. Now, one last thing before I turn it over to Andy is I need to introduce the first award tonight because Andy is actually part of the group name in the award. So our first award is the Anderson Leah Award. And this is named after Ralph Anderson, former Detroit Lake newspaper sports editor and Laker legend, along with Andy Leah. individuals that follow the model that they set, which is to put in so much of their own personal time for the betterment of Laker athletics. And I couldn't get Andy to say anything about himself, so rather than do that, I'm going to ask Tom Anderson, Ralph Anderson's oldest son, to come up and say a few words about both Ralph and Andy. Tom, would you join us, please?
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I want to thank Jeff, the Athletic Foundation, and all the board members for coming up with the award. This is the second time actually I've had the privilege to speak to this group. I suspect not many people get that opportunity. And I think it's a tribute to my dad, who he was, and the things that he accomplished. I actually talked to Andy the other day, and talking to Andy was like pulling teeth. There was a lot of silence on the call. I asked him if he could maybe help me out a little bit on things on the award. And I got to talking to Andy a little bit, and I think the thing that we both reflected on is it's now next year to be 20 years since Ralph took his typewriter upstairs and is counting up columns up there. But if you know Andy Leah, you know Ralph Anderson. The two of them, I think, were amazing journalists. Andy on the radio side, my dad in the newspaper. They both had a standard where they chose to take the high road in reporting on Laker athletics, win, lose, or draw. All of them, both of them, found something good to talk about in a sporting event. I would say, to echo Jeff's comments, two of the greatest ambassadors for Laker athletics that we've seen. I want to commend the Athletic Foundation for coming up with this award. I think it's, I'm a little biased, obviously, on the Anderson part of it. But the core values of the Athletic Foundation are to recognize, celebrate, remember, and honor those who have contributed to the DL athletics and their accomplishments. I'm extremely proud to say and very happy that Dr. Tom Seaworth is the first recipient of this award. So with that,
when they told me about the award in Ralph Anderson and my name, I said, what? What? Anyway, once I found out how they were going to choose that person, this person was definitely at the #1 spot on my list. Dr. Tom Seaworth will be receiving our Athletic Hall of Honor. He joined Medicare Sanford Health in Detroit Lakes in August of 1991. And when he arrived, he recognized the need for sports medicine services to support the Detroit Lakes athletic programs. He began to provide those services to DL athletes and coaches in 1992. I can remember when I was in high school, somebody got in to look up in the audience and say, "Is there a doctor present?" Well, over the last 30 years, Dr. Seaworth has attended thousands of Laker sporting events. You'll see him on the sidelines at the football game, the wrestling matches, and of course the basketball, volleyball games too. Didn't matter whether he was for Detroit Lakes athletes or visiting school, he was going to check out those visiting school athletes also. Give them the best care and advice from Dr. Seaworth. And by the way, he has stitched many players on the sideline and in the locker room so they can get back into the game. He's examined athletes, coaches, kids in their homes, whatever it took. Dr. Seaworth was always there to help. I'm going to call on Mike Seaworth right now to come up here, and Mike has a few words about Tom.
Thank you, Andy. Hi there. I'm Mike Seaworth, and I'm extremely proud to introduce my father, Dr. Tom Seaworth, tonight. I'm going to try to keep this short. If you've ever talked to my dad, he's following me. He's not exactly known for brevity when it comes to public speaking. So side, my dad has volunteered his time and medical expertise to the Detroit Lakes High School sports programs as a volunteer physician for 30 years. My three sisters and I, all former Laker athletes, have been lucky enough to personally benefit from having our own dad on the bench and on the field throughout our high school careers, as well as in our lives for the entirety of our lives. But his sports support, or his medical support, didn't stop at his own children's teams. He's been a constant present for all of Detroit Lakes athletics ever since our family moved here in 1991 to this day. His medical support, as well as enthusiasm for athletics and community leadership, has never stopped at the field of play. Aside from stitching, I know personally I have 7 right here that he delivered. Stitching, bandaging, advising, and caring for the athletes of Detroit Lakes, he has influenced the lives of our community's youth by impressing upon them the power of sport and benefits of leading a healthy lifestyle. I know this is one of the strongest lessons that my father has taught me, and possibly his most admirable quality is his perpetual desire to help others. The impact he's had on so many of Detroit Lakes alumni and current students to lead healthy lives is justification enough for this award. When you add in the time, effort, and passion he's brought, along with everything else I've mentioned, it's hard to imagine where he finds time in the day. I want to give a special shout out from Aaron, Katie, and Kelly from afar. They want to share their gratitude. So please join me in thanking and honoring my dad, Dr. Tom Seaworth.
My fellow inductees. It's exciting to see. I think I've got some sort of relationship with virtually every one of them, either as an athlete or taking care of family members. And Barb, Barrett, I helped her get her classes when she started school at the University of North Dakota. Quick story, there was a Naval Academy graduate named Charlie Plum who was flying F-4 fighters in Vietnam, and his jet was struck by a ground-air missile, and he had to eject. Fortunately, his parachute opened, and he safely floated to the ground where he was captured by the North Vietnamese. And unfortunately, he spent 6 years in a prisoner war camp. After he got out, he was recognized as a motivational speaker. He was in a restaurant one night, and this gentleman came over and said, "You're Charlie Plum, aren't you?" He said, "Well, yes, I am. How did you know that?" He said, I folded your parachute." And Charlie Plum was flabbergasted, and of course, he was very grateful. But he started thinking a little bit about, if he wouldn't have folded that parachute properly, he wouldn't be there today. So I think it's important to think about who folded our parachutes. For all of us, in my life, first and foremost is my wife Mary. From the time I started medical school and my medical career, through service in the military and then back here, it's important that this is a team effort to help take care of athletes and participate in our community. She has also done so, but she helped fold my parachute. But there are others. My children all were willing to allow me to participate in supporting school activities in the community, so I'm grateful to my kids as well. When I started doing this, shortly after I came to town, there was a gentleman who was the head football coach, and he commented that we were having difficulty getting kids evaluated when they had injuries.
And I thought, well, that's something that would be fun to do. I approached our clinic administrator at the time, Jerry Miller, who was willing to support that. 2 more guys that helped hold my parachute. The athletic trainings that we had, Scott Vanderhagen was the first working with us. Scott went to graduate school, Brent Foster was there a year, and then Turbo was there for a short period of time. Tom Trudson, Caleb Olson, Sam Savvy, and now Matt Oosterich. And he said I pronounced that right. So all of those trainers really do the majority of the work that supports Laker athletics, but also the coaches, the administrators, the parents have all supported what I do. So it's really a team effort. The staff at Sanford and Merit Care have been willing to provide the support so I can take the time, but also they've done a great job of providing financial resources to help do what I do. I love doing this, so I am humbled to receive this award for something that I love to do. So I did promise to be brief. So thank you very much, and I appreciate all you do, and thanks to the committee. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Doc allows me now to work the sidelines with him during the football games. Our next recipient is an honorary letter award. Jim Wood is the award winner. Jim Wood, known as Woody, grew up in Detroit Lakes, graduated in 1967 from the LHS. He enjoyed sports, participated in football, basketball, baseball during his school years, and his football skills led him to Bemidji State University, where he played as a defensive end. After graduating, Jim returned to Detroit Lakes, began raising his family in the area, watching his kids play sports for the years at Detroit Lakes. Jim volunteered countless hours to coaching youth sports. He loved working with young athletes, believed it was important to get them involved in sports, build self-confidence, create friendships, keep them physically active. Jim would be humbled to know he is recognized in this manner by the Detroit Lakes Athletic Foundation. Jim always was and always will be a Laker at heart. We'd like to call Justin Wood, his son, right now, to have a few words and receive his award.
James Wood, aka Jim Wood, mostly known by as Woody. There's a lot of us in the room, so you can't call that out there. Loves sports, but not for the reasons that many love sports. He particularly didn't care about flashy team names or bright sponsorships or famous athletes offering advice on random topics. He never played fantasy football. I guarantee he never participated in a mock draft. But he loves sports when what it taught us and how it developed us. And in the end, it made us. My dad played most sports most of his life. As mentioned, he loved baseball, basketball, and football, and went on to play football at Bemidji State. Fast forward a few years, he began coaching youth sports and dedicated countless hours and many years to those young athletes. My dad recognized the true value of sports. It taught us, the fact that it taught us hard work, focus, teamwork, confidence, camaraderie, and even loss and some hardship. It teaches us the skills of everyday life, the important stuff that we need in the attributes that make us successful. A fun example of this is my sister and I, when we were younger, signed up to the Irvine golf account. it was in an effort to raise money for a good cause. And when we started the day, my dad decided that he would run with us to do this event. He was not a golfer. And as we began to try to golf as many holes as we could, as the day went on, things got pretty hard. He would look over at me and say, hey, let's run this hole. Let's not walk. We'll walk the next one. 12 hours and 287 holes later, as darkness fell, we golfed our last hole. Needless to say, the sponsors that did $5 a hole were surprised when I showed up to collect money. One of my favorite quotes from my dad is, life isn't fair. And as soon as you recognize that, you stop feeling bad. Well, not getting anything you think you deserve. You would say go work for it. Give up on it, grit your teeth, square your shoulders, and fight on. That's how you will succeed. Tonight, as I look at the guests in the room, they recognize all the great athletes, the amazing coaches, the dedicated sponsors. These attributes I mentioned above don't come as a surprise to anyone in the room. They're woven in each one of our fabrics. My dad recognized this and believed sharing and teaching those attributes with the continued sports towards developing tomorrow's athletes and our future leaders. My dad would be so humbled for being recognized tonight in this manner, and his family is equally grateful. I want to again thank the Detroit Lakes Athletic Foundation and for those all involved tonight.
Oh, that was a great honor, of course. Joel, good share of me also. Our next recipient is Peter Irvine. Pete is the only one that I didn't see play football or basketball because I was in Thief River Falls at that time. But I heard about him. He was a legend to anybody that played the Lakers. Class of 1964. Starred in football, basketball, and baseball. Peter M. Irvine was a graduate of Detroit Lakes High School class of 64. Standout in football, basketball, baseball earned 9 letters. Peter was an all-conference football player, setting records for his accomplishments as a passer. He played the baseball and basketball teams to Resort Region Conference, District 23 championships. Peter was known as a very intelligent athlete. He was also a gritty competitor and exemplary leader. And to introduce a little bit more here, Ed Larson is going to come up and talk about his friend Peter Irvine.
There's this strange behavior that often exists between all kinds of players. They get this worst pleasure out of dating each other. And strangely enough, this abuse friendship actually is strong. You ever seen that? It's kind of primarily a guy thing. It doesn't really work well out all between husband and wife. Earlier this summer, me, Tom, Rich Grable, and Bob Smile went over the film. Play a little golf and beat. Before we tee off, I realized I forgot my ball. So Pete was always prepared, tosses me an extra ball. Mind you, we're only a few feet apart. What I had to make is diving one hand, grab up my shoe top. And that's not so easy these days. So I look up at Pete, he's got this big grin on his face. And I start laughing, he starts laughing, deja vu. I think about this incident a little later, and I have this flashback to this game at Alexander. I finally get Pete to call my number for a post count. I blast off the line with this incredible speed. Throw this tremendous day on the defensive back. It cut to the center of the field, wide open. And I turned back, expecting to have to make another circus catch. But what do I see? A perfect spiral heading straight to my chest. Oh, I dropped the damn thing. I was so shocked. Well, the truth, we connected on a lot of passes. And he gave me a lot of good assists in basketball, too. But I think there was at least one game that was a bit selfish. That was a game that he took, edged me out for the scoring title for a single game. I had forgotten all about that. Let alone if it was other draw passes, by the way. But I was reminded that Kathy Johnson, thank you, Kathy, sent me a newspaper clipping reminding me of that fact. Now, Kathy is our class historian, and the glue that holds us all together, and also the person whose emails take up most of the memory on my iPhone. Anyhow, so in preparation for this little spiel, she sent me this lengthy chronology of all of Pete's accomplishments, starting in elementary school. I mean, it's like, what you think, I have it all up here? No. So, I started reading through this. And hell, I don't even get to the junior high, or barely into junior high, I'm feeling this intensive through the old. Now I know what the hell you were doing while me and Bodie were off getting in trouble. But now, tell me the truth. You weren't really an honorary blue, were you? There you go. Sure enough. Anyhow, well, we all know that Chicago has some athletics in high school as well as college. He went on to serve his country honorably, even though it was in the Navy. I'm biased. And then he embarked on a long and illustrious career in the legal profession, culminating in a position as a senior judge in Minnesota. But more important than any of that, is he's a flat-out good guy. Now, departed, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of philosophy that was shared with me by a tennis buddy from Southern Cal, tennis once I gave up basketball. Ken Stewart, who reached number 10 in the world during the wild labor days, and would occasionally play some doubles. After this one doubles match, Ken and I are sitting on the side of the court, and he looks over at me with a serious look on his face, puts his hand on my shoulder, looks me in the eye and says, Ed, here's the progression of my life. Singles, doubles, golf, death. Pete, you need to get back out on that golf course. Ladies and gentlemen, here at Irvine.
I don't have anything to say. It's an amazing experience tonight, because I'm not one of these in the past, and I'm sorry about this. I want to thank Ed for the kind words, and also thank Kathy Schaffner who spent hours, and perhaps days, putting together the information and management and information for this position. I will say, I looked at the other inductees, and I think Ed would agree with me. Most of those folks weren't born when we were playing ball. They say that this all didn't begin well for me. I'll say 7th grade one time, and don't get nervous, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. That's when football started for me, and about 40 kids got together, and the plan was to have a big game under the lights. In those days, some of you would remember that under the lights meant baseball. After the field, we played football, and it was wet. So this game happens, and when it's all done, I'm the only kid who didn't play. I can't tell you the devastation this one happened. I went home and spent a lot of time behind the couch, crying, and wondering what in the hell I did wrong. I was done with football at that time, as far as I was concerned, and then next year came, and I thought, I'm going to show these coaches. I'm going to show them that they were wrong. That year went really very well. I was going back and enjoyed it, and then came the next year. We were ready for the B squad to play the year before. So, again, we were weak from that first game, so our coach gave a bunch of footballs to the center, lined up all of the backs, and said, take a hike. So we took our turn. Everyone went through there, taking a hike from our center, and when they were all done, the coach said, Irvine, you're our quarterback. You're the only one who caught a hike. So here I am. There's one other thing about those days. I would have to say that I really thought, and I said it never occurred to me that at this point in my life there wouldn't be any. We talked about operators and a person that Ed and I respect. It's amazing. He was the statistician for our football team and our basketball team in those days. The only stats that they kept, quarterback stats, running back stats, wide receivers stats, and who scored. What didn't happen then, and frankly I don't know what happens now, is that those are the 4 people on the football field. There were 7 other guys that really made things work for us. Like all the playing in those days, coaches didn't call them, they called the plays. Broke the huddle, and those guys went up to the line, and they did their very best to make sure that I had time to throw a ball. Ed had time to catch it. There was a hole for our running backs to go through. But when it was all done, those stats were those people. The basketball team in those days, same thing. We had 15 guys on our basketball team, and 6 or 7 of us played most of the time. The coach we had then. The other guys, they cheered from the bench during the games. But the Monday after that game, they were at practice, and they spent each day at practice trying to kick our asses. And they did. They really were responsible for making us better. There are some of those guys here today, and I'm happy that they are. Yeah, there's a participant as well. He played, and I played among some of the guys. The reality is, none of the success that we had would have worked out. So, from my perspective, I'll just let you know private commercials, okay? Placard, I mean, you get through it tonight. It's as much their placard as it is mine. They have a piece of it, and they always will. And I know that, they do, but it's I hope they do. No stats. They're just really committed people to make us better, and they were really successful at it. Got a table over here, folks. I'm going to introduce some people, and it won't take very long. My wife is sitting over there. Tomorrow is our 46th anniversary. I would tell you there are a whole lot of people that can't believe she put up with me for 46 years. There's some friends of ours from the cities. First people we met in law school 46 years ago. My sister Sally is here as well. Person that went to more ball games in her life that she was not interested in. But there were babies there. So, the person that never missed a game, one game she missed in my career. My mom is here too. He passed, and I thought maybe I'll have him on my head. Then I became Eloise Irvine's son. And that hasn't ended. Thank God. She went to every meeting that I played, so everybody was great. The best fan the person could ever have. She did just one game, senior year. And that was the league that was talking about. Played for the Stars, and scored a lot of points. And she was in a snowstorm in the city. She came home, and I told her, you know, Mom, we've attended all these games, and reasonably well. You missed this one, so I don't think you should go any more games. She did anyway. She's a wonderful person, and everybody who knows her here thinks she's just the sweetest person you could ever know, the kindest person, and the most thoughtful person you could ever know. I have a story. When I first played, I was back at quarterback, a solid 130 pounds. Sophomore year, we played Park Rapids, and in the first half of that game, 2 ambulances came on the field and hauled people off, the kids who were hurt out of the hospital. It happened in the middle of the third quarter that our quarterback, the starting quarterback, was ejected from the football. So guess who got it? The coach put me in. Mother immediately stood up and started running down to the field. My father was chasing her and got down the field and said, "Please, what are you doing?" She said, "I'm getting Peter off the field. He's going to get hurt." My father took her back up in the pictures, and she never went on the field again. Just want to thank these folks that got me here. Guys that played with me all those years, that made me and the team that we are as well. There's the right lessons that we all learn and we're involved in athletics. It's easy to be a winner. Being a loser is really the best education that we can get from this sports, because that's right. You don't always win. You don't win. You need to get up the next morning. You need to put things together and go off to work or go off to whatever job you have. You make the same commitment you made the day before. And you thought you were going to. So, talk about all the others. I just want to thank you for selecting me for this position. And friends that have come tonight to share a little bit for their old friends. Thank you.
recipient is Barb Dyke, class of 1979. She started basketball, volleyball, track, and field. She was one of the first great three-sport female athletes in the history of Beach Athletics High School. She excelled in volleyball, basketball, and track and field. Barb earned 9 letters during her high school career. She was the most valuable player in volleyball, all conference in both basketball and track and field. She was known as a fierce competitor and helped lead the Lakers to the Southern Region Championship in basketball, track and field team to their first ever Mid-State Conference Championship. And I did see her play basketball during high school. To talk a little bit more about Barb, let's call up Steve Senby, who is her coach here for the Lakers. Steve?
Before I get started, I want to mention something about Eloise. We go to church together, and Eloise, way back when she was in high school, she designed the logo for the Lakers. You remember that, Eloise? Probably, right? It is my honor to introduce to you Barb Dyke. Barb played for the Lakers at the beginning of girls athletics at EL High. She played intramurals as a 9th grader because we did not have any varsity sports at that time. And then varsity sports in volleyball, basketball, and track as a sophomore. Her mom tells me that she would drag the hurdles home. They lived on Pembina, Rossman, and from the high school to Rossman, she dragged hurdles down in practice all summer long on the hurdles. That dedication. She was in the forefront of Laker girls athletics. With her influence, the Lakers had incredible seasons of basketball, going 18-3 and 19-3 in their junior and senior years. Barb was the leader of what has become a winning tradition in DL High. Those are the facts about Barb, but she is more than just stats. I would like to read a letter that her mother shared with me written after our semifinal game against Melrose in 1979. You might remember that was the year of the comb over. That's when I had it. I always have to walk with the wind when you This sums up the Barb that I coached, and I quote, "Barb, you don't know me, and who I am really is not important. I live in Alexandria, but am not associated with the girls or boys basketball teams. I was at your game against Melrose, and truly enjoyed watching you play. Although I was cheering for Melrose, I couldn't help noticing your play. I was impressed, especially with the way you conducted yourself on the court, under pressure when your team was trailing in the closing minutes of the game. Your sportsmanship was exemplary, and to be highly commended, especially after you fouled out. It seemed that knowing you had played a good game defensively and offensively, you couldn't feel bad about fouling out and concentrated on encouraging your teammates the remainder of the game. Something that one doesn't happen very often. I read something once that means a lot to me. Conceit is self-given, beware. Praise is man-given, be careful. Ability is God-given, be thankful. Thank you for your good example and beautiful smile. It was a joy to watch you play. May God bless and guide you in your plans for your future." And personally, I have 2 granddaughters, one's in 6th grade, one's in 10th grade. And I hope for them that they will be just like Barb Barrett. Ladies and gentlemen, Barb.
before you coached us. So here he came in with a bunch of girls and had to deal with our emotions up and down and waiting until you could get into the locker room until we were all dressed and all those things that come with coaching girls. And you took a team that was just starting and you did amazing things for us. So, yay, Coach Lee. I want to give a huge thank you to the Detroit Lakes Athletic Foundation for extending this honor to me. I was very surprised to get the call last year, but thank you very much for allowing me to be here tonight and have this honor. I want to thank my family members who made a lot of effort to be here this evening, and you know that means the world to me, so thanks you guys. It's also an honor to be inducted along with Hanna Grinaker, Cooley, who is my cousin's daughter, and she's amazing. You'll hear more about her later on tonight, but it's just a privilege to be here inducted with her and all the other amazing inductees here tonight. Well, this honor is extra special to me tonight, as we were here 5 years ago, honoring my dad, Barrett, when he was inducted into the Hall of Honor in 2016. You know, it was such a special time to celebrate him when he was still with us, because he passed away in 2018. Dad was a major factor in my enjoyment of athletics, whether it was shooting baskets together, or really he helped me drag those hurdles home to practice in the street, so he was such an encourager all along the way. My parents were both such huge supporters of me, as were my amazing sisters. So Mom and Dad would even drive to many of my games when I played basketball at the University of North Dakota. So the support was always there, whether I played well or not, and that was such a gift. So I have such fond memories of participating in sports in Detroit Lakes, whether it was under Dyke with volleyball, or Steve Sunby and assistant coach Robin Turnwall in basketball, or Coach Terry Peterson my sophomore year in track, and then Coach Bob Gordon my senior years. I was so blessed with these amazing coaches. They taught us so much, as already has been mentioned. They teach not only the skills that are needed for the different sports, but also they help instill those character qualities in us that are integral for not only doing well in sports, but just succeeding in life. So thank you, coaches. I was also blessed to have great teammates, and I agree with Peter when he said that really the honor needs to go to the teammates and the other coaches as well, because it is a team thing. So I truly had such positive experiences with all my sports in Detroit Lakes, thanks to these coaches and amazing teammates that I had. So I want to share just a couple memories with you. So I am amazed when I realized how close I was to missing the opportunity to play basketball if I'd been born just a few years earlier, as been mentioned. So girls basketball was just beginning at the interscholastic level when I reached high school. Since we had a good team our junior and senior years in high school, and probably because it was so new, we had this huge support from the community of Detroit Lakes. I have memories of extra bleachers needing to be pulled out to accommodate the fans that would come. And the cheering would be so loud when they had the starting lineups, when they announced the starting lineups, that the coaches would have to point to us to tell us when to go out because we couldn't hear the numbers, or couldn't hear the announcer because of the cheering. I remember that they even took a few buses of fans to our last tournament games. So that was so impacting for this high school kid, and there was nothing like a hometown supporting me. Another memory I want to share is of Coach Bob Gordon in track. He would come up with a great saying for a year like, "We were great in 78, but 79 will be the time." So besides being an amazing coach, Bob went the extra mile for Cindy Carlson and myself when we made it to the state track meet our senior year. Unfortunately, the meet was the day after our evening high school graduation ceremony. So we wouldn't have to miss the graduation ceremony. Coach Gordon went out and made arrangements for us to have a charter plane to fly us down, along with Linda Shaw, to the state track the morning after our graduation. So thanks to his efforts and going above and beyond, we were able to experience both our high school graduation and competing in the state track meet. So what a wonderful way to end up our time at DLHS. So as well as wanting to thank the committee for this opportunity, the community of Detroit Lakes for all their support, the amazing coaches and the teammates that I had, and my awesome family members. I'm so thankful to Jesus, who's the giver of all good gifts. He's blessed me with these opportunities that have deeply enriched my life. And I'm very, very thankful for that. So thank you again for this honor.
see Steve Sunday here, even though he has lost a little bit of hair over the years. You did a great job, Steve, all those years coaching. Our next recipient of the Athletic Hall of Honor is Ryan Manke, class of 2000. During his career for the Lakers, Ryan set 3 school records in track and field. Football, 14 feet 6 inches. I don't know if he could do that anymore. He was a member of the 4x100 relay and the 4x200 relay. In 2000, he was a state track meet participant in both the pole vault and the 4x100 relay. He was recognized for his leadership on both the field and court in football and basketball. Over the course of his high school career, Ryan was named the most valuable defensive player. He was twice the recipient of the Super Laker Award for his work ethic, and named to the Minnesota High School All-Star football team. I was sure glad when he came to town because the football program just turned around like that, and it's been great ever since. Talk a little bit more about Brian is his brother Reed. I'm sure he has good things to say about it.
Thank you, Andy. Good evening, everyone. My name is Reed Manke, as Andy mentioned. To introduce my brother, Ryan. For those of you that knew Ryan growing up, he was always hardworking, intelligent, competitive. He was also very small in stature. When he was a freshman in high school, he weighed in at 102 pounds. There was a place for that. I think the coach showed him starting to be wearing those down his shirt thereafter. However, his discipline and strong work ethic quickly took him in the weight room and began to pay off as he played varsity basketball as a sophomore and then began to flourish on the track and field. So he currently holds 3 records, the 14.6 in the pole vault, the 4x100 relay, and the 4x200 relay. Now these records haven't faded at all, but thankfully his bleached blonde hair from that track season has. All right, during Ryan's senior year of football, we graduated quite a few seniors from the previous year, and I was a little uncertain how this team was going to be. Ryan did an amazing job, used his leadership skills, and led us to a 8-2 year that year, and we had big wins over Bemidji, Fergus Falls, and Sartell. Now, I don't think we would have won many games that year if it wasn't for Ryan playing quarterback, because the backup, this guy, wasn't quite ready to play varsity football yet. I was hoping he didn't get hurt. After wrapping up his senior year, Ryan was recruited to the University of North Dakota by the coaching staff for football and track. And I think he got a gentle push from Dr. Tom Seaworth as well. At UND, Ryan was a national champion, 3-year starter at cornerback, as well as a team captain in senior year. But out of all of his accolades and achievements throughout his collegiate career, I personally consider the number of losses to NSU the most impressive. 0. So as his younger brother, as you can imagine, I've always looked up to Ryan. He's been a great role model to me and a very positive impact on my life. Even though Ryan holds many records as a championship ring and now Hall of Famer, I'm even more impressed that he's a wonderful father, husband, son, and brother. He always makes time to be involved in the community and dedicated to his dental profession. He's the best big brother I could ask for. Again, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Banquet.
Wow, thanks, Reed. Problem with Reed, he's got a little too good of a memory about some things, especially weights from 9th grade. parents who've supported me throughout all the years. Not only as a Laker, but even now. So, thank you. Thank you for the Detroit Lakes Athletic Foundation putting on this event tonight. It's just truly a first-class operation. And congratulations to all the other Hall of Honor nominees tonight. The real nice thing about going through this process here was getting to kind of reflect on, what got me to where I'm at today, and why I'm standing here tonight, I guess. And one memory just kind of stuck out to me from 9th grade. Took a civics course with Bob Mohr, who was a teacher and coach for me and hunting partner now. But he had a careers course, and so going through what we're going to do when we grew up, and he kind of pulled me aside one day. He said, "Hey, Brian, have you thought about what you want to do?" I hadn't thought too much yet about what I was going to do, so I thought for a few minutes, and I looked him in the eye and said, "I think it might be a professional football player." This was before the success of Adam Thielen, so it was a little far-fetched. As we mentioned, he kind of looked me up and down, my 5'2", 100-pound frame. I just got done coaching an 0-6, or quarterback in an 0-6 freshman football team. Things didn't matter. But, why am I standing here today? I guess as far as my, I think thinking back to the 7th grade when I started track and field, I wasn't really knowing much about the sports. And I was fortunate enough to start off with a couple of other young guys, John Olson, who's here tonight, and Adam Steppel, and we were able to start an event called pole vaulting. And if anybody's seen 7th graders pole vault, it's pretty painful. So it takes a long time to get pretty much success. And really, we were fortunate for this guy started showing up at practice. Named Jeff Mohr. Thanks, Jeff, for standing here now. But he spent 6 years coming from 7th graders, and he taught us a lot. Had some unique coaching tactics and all that, but he really got us to the point where we were really one of the top football team squads in the state, and we really had a lot of success going 1, 2, and 3 in a lot of events, a lot of meets. Also, if anybody was watching the Olympics this last year, it really got me thinking. Once I saw people starting to break some of those records and just the looks on their faces. And that brought me back to kind of senior year. We put together a 4x100 team, and we were just going to have some fun with it, and we had the home meet. My teammates got off to a huge lead. I think I finished before any teammates even had another handoff. And we looked at the time, and we broke the school record. It was just, that was the Olympic faces that you saw, was our faces that day, because it was a shock to all of us, and it was a lot of excitement. We went on to break it a few more times that year. It was a lot of fun, because those guys are legends that had that record before. Craig Ferguson, Mark Rasmussen, some of that, David Johnson was on that. So those guys we felt really good about that. We also had a great 4x200 team that year, and we had Jesse Knopf on that. So just to bring it home, I guess it turns out that Bob Mohr was right. I didn't turn out to be a professional football. But I have been fortunate enough to further my career and play some football in college and did a little track. And then be able to come back and Detroit Lakes has really been a blessing with my wife Chelsea and really their four children here. So thanks again, everybody. Good night.
I see Ryan once a year, he says, "Open your mouth." I have one other question here with the Manke family sitting right here. We have Rory, Reed, Ryan. What was it like to play for Dad? I'm sure he treated you just like the rest of the football players. Our next recipient is Shane Tappe, class of 2002. Shane lettered in and was awarded all-conference recognition in football, wrestling, and baseball. And during the course of his wrestling career, he was a 6-time Letterwinner, 2-time state finalist, 3-time place winner, 6th, 2nd, and 2nd. And during both his junior and senior years, Shane was a member of the Guillotine Academic All-State team. Shane was selected to the all-section football team his senior year, named the Offensive Lineman of the Year, and was a member of the 2001 State Football Championship team. Tappe was a 3-year starter for the baseball team captain, section runner-up in his senior year. And I can remember in a few football games where Shane was outweighed by the opponent and was able to block him, open it up for the Laker running attack. So he was just tremendous in the football. And of course, Flint's not here tonight, and he'll tell you all about him in that state football championship game. To talk about his wrestling, which was outstanding, we're going to call up Laker coach Rob Elliott. And Rob is here, I assume.
What a great night, Tom. It's unbelievable. You know, this is my 32nd year of coaching here, and I have to tell you, this is why we do it. This is it. I've had so many of you people come and go through class and through athletics and what have you. This is why you do it. Anybody ask you, why are you still coaching, or why do you do this? This is it right here. These outstanding people that are here with us tonight just makes me smile. I'm not going to go another 32 years, but I'm going to smile tonight. I'm going to smile tonight. You know you're getting old when your principal was somebody you had in class at one time. Isn't that right, Mr. Roman? Before I continue on, I wanted to give respect when respect is due. Tonight we recognize Dr. Tom Seaworth, and I want to tell you from my position as a wrestling coach in our community, there aren't many that spend more than him. He's our go-to guy every single time, and I don't care if it's 10 o'clock at night or 6 in the morning, he is there for us, like he is for all Laker athletics. Doc, thank you. Well, I'm here to talk a little bit about Tappe. I was told to keep it short, so I can't tell you some of the really, really good stuff, I'll tell you. But I can tell you a couple things. So, you know, I've known him since he's been about this big, right here. About that big. He's got a little bigger since then. I've known him for a long time, so it's been hard to kind of narrow this down a little bit. I can't tell you about the times when he was a young wrestler. I used to live north of the high school on Roosevelt Avenue, a little place there that Diana and I bought when we came to town. About 10 o'clock at night, I get a knock at my door every once in a while. I knew who it was. It's Tappe. Coach, I need some help with the down position. So at 10 o'clock at night, we're down on the carpet in my living room figuring out different techniques for that down position. Happened more than once, I'll tell you. I used to work in the city rec department here in town. What a marvelous opportunity for our DL youth kids back in the day. And Shane was one of the constants there and things, and we developed such a friendship when he was a young fellow that he used to come home with me after I was done with work. And he'd hit my refrigerator a little bit here and there, jump off my dock every once in a while. And one time I remember, he's not the brightest bulb in the pack sometimes. I know he's in administration now, so it kind of makes sense here. But one time he was there and he said, God, I'm really thirsty, coach. You got anything? And I said, well, I can make some tea. Tea? I'm not drinking any tea, he said. 5 minutes later, I whipped up a batch of tea and I said, how about some brown Kool-Aid? Sounds good, coach. I think it's his favorite drink yet today. I'm not sure, but he likes the brown Kool-Aid. tell you is that he's a Laker. That's why he's here tonight. He's a Laker. Now, I think we all define what being a Laker is maybe different from person to person to person, but to me, it's not always the best athlete on the team. It helps if you are, but it's not always the best athlete. To me, what a Laker is somebody with grit, someone that treats people with tremendous respect. They lead by example. They treat people like they want to be treated, and they make a difference. Shane's all of those things. He's a Laker. I have to tell you, the early 1990s, when Shane was in elementary school, coming up, getting ready for middle school, the Detroit Lakes wrestling program had only been just brought back a few years before that from the time it had been cut back in 1982. We had never in the history of our sport, or Laker community here, had a state entrant come out of Detroit Lakes. Never, not one. We had only had one time in the history of Laker wrestling a winning wrestling season. I think it was 1970. I think Paul Thorvaldsen was the coach. They had a 7-6 record that year. That's the only one. 50 years, one winning season. Wow. Now you ask me, why do I bring that up? Well, to put it another way, we were not very good. And the Tappe family's from Frazee. If you know anything about wrestling in Frazee, it's in the blood of everyone. And I have to tell you that back in the 90s, you know Frazee was producing those unbelievable great teams. State championship type teams, had a great program going and things. I know Robin told me many times, it didn't matter who you ran into, they were reminded time and time again that you better get those two boys into green singlettes. So I didn't know what was going to happen. But he's a Laker. He's a Laker. He believed, and his family believed, that in Detroit Lakes we can also do some pretty special things here. He's a three-sport athlete at Detroit Lakes High School, as Andy said, the catcher on the baseball team. He was a difference maker there. That's your general. That's your general. We have football. He was a center on the football team. Now, I know when you look at him today, you can shake your head and say, yeah, I can see that. I get that. But did you know in high school, he wrestled 135 pounds? His senior year, his competition weight was 135. He was the most valuable lineman on the state championship football team in 2021. 135 pounds. That tells you something about Shane. He's a difference maker. He's got grit. He's a Laker. In wrestling, you heard Andy tell you he was a 6-year varsity starter for the Lakers, right? He was a 5-time all-conference wrestler, 3-time state entrant, placing 6th, 2nd, and more importantly, he was part of the very first group that ever came through our program to place in the state wrestling tournament. He paved the way for others to come later. He won many different accolades through his wrestling career, but if you ask Shane, I'm sure he would tell you the most important thing to him was always the team. It was always about team. His senior year, his competition weight, as I said, was 135. However, we always moved Shane around wherever we could to get the best matchup for our team, to have the best success. We moved him all over the place. His senior year, he wrestled 135, 140, 145, 152, and 160, all in the same year. Wherever the toughest kid was on the other team, he got Tappe. That's how we did it. Not one time was I ever asked why I would make that move. Why? He's a difference maker. He's a Laker. He gets it. He knows. He leads by example. He was a huge part of a group of wrestlers that began to build respect and tradition for the Laker wrestling program. And it wasn't just what he did on the mat. He's a magnet kind of kid. If you're a coach out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He's the kind of kid that when he was in your program, others gravitated toward They wanted to be on teams that he was on. They wanted to be like Shane. When Shane shook his head yes, they began to nod. When Shane walked a certain direction, they followed him and things. When Shane started to talk, they listened. He was a difference maker. He was a huge part of some of the successes we had. I'll give you one great example. In the 1990s, I think, if you know anything about wrestling, you know that the Staples had a dynasty program. Multiple state championship teams that they had. The Detroit Lakes wrestling program was 0 and 60. That's 6-0. I didn't say 6, I said 60 against Staples through the history of Laker wrestling. They had another one of their fine teams, but we had a little better team that we had been building for a little while as well. Coach Jackson and I brought a sign into the wrestling room. We posted it in there and said 0 and 60. Every day after practice, we went to that sign, we touched that sign, we smelled that sign. We did other things with that sign, I can't talk about it. But I could see the fire start to burn in this guy. He began to talk to the guys. He began to lead the guys. He encouraged the guys. He told these guys, we can change our history. I won't go into great detail, but I will tell you, we wrestled Staples at the end of the week, and at the next practice, we changed the 0 to a 1. Now you might say, well, that's one duel, Mr. Elliott, and it is. But I'm here to tell you this, that's how he did things time and time again. Because Shane believed, and he helped others believe, and he helped them get to where we wanted to get to. They believed, they followed. Why? Because he was a difference maker. A difference maker. As Andy said, after high school, Shane attended St. Cloud State University, where he achieved a degree in industrial arts, I guess is what I would call it, things. He wrestled for St. Cloud State University. But what you might not know is that he actually student taught here at Detroit Lakes. And when he student taught here, he actually helped coach our team. He actually helped coach one of our teams, one of our first teams, to the Minnesota State Wrestling Tournament. Section championship, one of our first ones we won were when Shane was here. He's a difference maker. He came back home to help our teams do what he was trying to do as he was coming through the programs. And he took a job later at Mohr Area High School as a shop teacher and as a head wrestling coach. I don't know how many parents I ran into that told me time and time again what a difference he has made in our program. Why? He's a Laker. He's a difference maker. As I said earlier, he did cross into the dark side though. He completed his administrative degree, became a principal at a few schools. I think Grade Law was one of them, Ashby, another, and a superintendent now in Dawson Boyd, and now currently is a superintendent at Staples Motley. Now I think you knew that, but maybe what you didn't know is this. Last year, he was also the head wrestling coach at Staples Motley High School. They came up to a situation where they had a one-year thing where they needed some help. Remember the COVID year? I think we can all remember that. We want to forget it, but it's there. Well, who took over the head position? The superintendent did. I don't know of any schools in the state of Minnesota that have a head coach and a superintendent together. Why? He's a Laker. He's a difference maker. It is my honor to introduce to you Laker difference maker, Shane Tappe.
Well, he certainly gives me a lot of credit, and first off, take the opportunity here to thank the Hall of Fame selection committee who felt that I was deserving of this prestigious honor. I also want to congratulate the fellow inductees. Truly honored. There's some amazing people here tonight, and an amazing recognition to all of you. I'm very fortunate to be able to share this great moment with some my wife Holly, our 4 kids, Colby, Cooper, Cameron, and Corlin, my family, mom, dad, grandpa, brother, sister-in-law, their kids, Kellen, Willa, and Miles. And friends, such an honor. But what many don't know is I even get to share this honor where it all started, like Mr. Elliott said, of being a Laker. And I get to share this honor with my kindergarten teacher, who's sitting right in the front row, Mrs. Manke. Now, how amazing is that to be able to share that honor with where it all started? In education, there's a saying that everything you need to know, I've learned in kindergarten. Kindergarten started the life adventure in such a clear and simple terms. Things like saying please, thank you, learning how to follow processes, procedures, walking in a straight line, showing respect for adults, authority, and last but not least, always doing your best. I couldn't have accomplished any of the things I accomplished in my Laker athletic career without the support of my parents, grandparents, my brother, my teammates, my coaches. To my coaches, my football coaches, Clint Machenbacher, Rick Manke, Rob Nielsen, Mike Levine, Vern Schnedorst, David Meyer, John Jacobson, Steve Sunday, and Larry Buckles. The one thing that many people don't know about Larry is actually my 9th grade year, Larry actually had to do the Heimlich maneuver on me at practice because I thought it was going to be a great idea to show up to practice and have Skittles in my mouth. And unfortunately, that didn't bode well, so my face started turning blue. I ripped my helmet off, ripped my pads off, and I got the Heimlich maneuver. So I guess I can say that Larry saved my life and gave me this honor. So. My wrestling coaches, Rob Elliott, Todd Jackson, Jason Harrier, Justin Haig, Nathan Weber, Sean Fettig, and Phil Kirshner. I'll save the story for later about the wrestling coaches. My baseball coaches, Flint, Steve Foose, Kenny Blackbauer, Phil Kirshner, and I'm sure I'm missing some others, and I apologize if I did. The way that my coaches always believed in me, I am forever grateful and appreciative. You have all shaped me into the person that I am today and will continue to be. This recognition and honor is as much for you as it is for me, because of the knowledge, the time, the care that you gave me along this journey. You as coaches sacrifice time away from your families and gave that time to us as athletes. You didn't allow us to accept average. You never allowed the easy way out or to quit when times were tough. You always made us do it the right way, no matter what, the Laker way. There's one person
that is not here tonight. That was my biggest fan and support. That was my grandma, Lynn Bristol. I know she's looking down tonight and extremely proud. For those of you that didn't know my grandma, she never missed a single game, match. She was there for everything. Now, she didn't even miss a single college visit. So, to stand here today and accept this great honor, I think it's important that I recognize her and all she has done for me. So Mr. Elliott talked about the dark side, so I'm going to bring it up. Jeff Perkins certainly made a testament early in the program about how low the fees are in the Detroit Lake School. My first year in Staples Motley, I took a stand as the school superintendent. I came in and wanted to make an impact for kids involved in athletics and activities because I know what it has done for me and continues to do for my kids. In the Staples Motley School District, our activity fees are zero. Every single student is free of charge. And the board got behind me, and I am truly grateful and appreciative for the work and commitment that they have done. So, Mr. Elliott, the dark side isn't all that bad sometimes. The greatest gift from all my supporters and coaches that I get the opportunity to do is pay it forward as a father of 4 amazing kids. I also get the opportunity to pay it forward to an entire school district as a school superintendent. I got into education to make a difference. The opportunities and experiences that I've certainly had here as a Laker athlete have shaped who I am today. But more importantly, it's about the relationships, the lifelong friendships, the trust, the pride, the humility, the respect, and integrity that have made the biggest impact in my life. As memories fade, in my mind, the people never will, because of the impact that they have made in my life. I want to share a football memory. Like Mr. Elliott said, it was I might have been 150 pounds when I played football. But I was fortunate to have teammates that did everything in their power to make everybody successful. I had a hell of a quarterback
had two great running backs, Tim Service and Garrett Boyd, and by the time they were past me, I was able to look up and just look at the number of the back of their jersey as they made it to the end zone. But I remember the one conversation as a lineman, and we got to the section semifinal, or excuse me, the state semifinal. And Vern comes to me and goes, Tappe, you got a big task this week. I'm thinking, well, yeah, they've all been big tasks. But St. Michael Albertville had a gentleman by the name of Tim Spade. Many of you have maybe followed him on Sundays. He played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. At the time when he was in high school, he was about 6'5", 200 and maybe 50 pounds. And Barrett said, you know, to be able to do this, you're going to have to be able to block, and you're going to have to get to the linebacker. And I'll tell you what, that game was 34-0. Detroit Lakes over St. Michael Albertville. As a Detroit Lakes wrestler, Rob was exactly right. There were many times that we went to tournaments, and the Frazee crowd continued to circle like vultures around my brother and I, and my parents. You know, the bus just, it can go right to your driveway. We can pick you up. We can do all these things. But I think the value here is you don't run to greener pastures. You make your own trail. You pave your own way. And the reason that we stayed is because we believed. We believed in the coaching staff, the administration, the direction that the program was going. And every time that conversation consisted, it was motivation for us to achieve, for us to prove what we were capable of doing. And I owe a lot of my success to all of you coaches that made an impact in my life, and especially to the man that is sitting to the left. Man, I would not be here today without him. And I still do drink that brown Cooley. The Laker athletics and coaches have shaped who I am today. The sports, they were instrumental in my life. Would not be here standing in front of you without the experiences and the people that have led me through this journey. I am truly honored to be recognized as the Laker Hall of Honor member. Thank you.
Everybody's running for the marathon right now. Our next honored athlete is Hanna Cooley, class of 2006. Hanna was a runner, and that's an understatement. She won every single regular season and section meet as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. Minnesota State cross-country runner-up for both their junior and senior years. The Detroit Lakes High School record for the 4K and 5K in cross-country are in Hanna Grinaker's name. In between running seasons, Hanna played hockey for the Detroit Lakes Lakers. track season, Hanna excelled also. She holds the Detroit Lakes High School record for the 800 meters, 1600, 3200 meter races individually, as also an anchor of the 4x800 relay. Hanna is known for being one of the strongest competitors in Detroit Lakes athletics. And when Hanna was in cross country, I always had the privilege of drawing the cart around the course, leading the runners around the course. And I learned with Hanna running that I had to give myself plenty of room ahead of her. Only one other runner has passed me when I run the cart when I was a kid from Mohr, but I always knew that Hanna was going to be right on my tail. To talk a little bit more about Hanna, come up here, and Bill Quebec will be telling us a little bit about Hanna Grinaker.
I usually write speeches, I kind of think them through a lot though, so, but I actually wrote some stuff down. I'm going to try and, I brought glasses too, because Mr. Sunday, I'm losing my hair too. Mr. Sunday, and now I'm needing glasses as well, so. This is really exciting for me. The girls basketball team, hey ladies, love you guys. These girls were part of my second year teaching at middle school. Some of them a couple years in the lab, and some of the finest, absolute greatest people that I've ever had a chance to. Because I traveled Europe with one of them. I know that I just like really great people, and I'm super excited to see you all and all the success that you had forever. So I'll stop now. I think I need to put into perspective a little bit about the type of athlete that Hanna is. We understand points in a basketball game. We understand 6 touchdowns. I reminded of Irvine, he once had 6 touchdowns in a football game. I don't know if we really understand the accomplishment of a cross-country athlete. Not many of us get out to a cross-country race. If you're in a high school, your athletic practice is always taking place during our meetings. So it's difficult to get out and actually help to support your teammates. Once you move past that, I don't know how often we get back to our old high school to watch any kind of athletic event, much less something that maybe we did or didn't participate in. And so, as a perspective on that, every race that we run, we're running against more than one team. If you think of a person that is beating everybody, she's running against sometimes 100 or more kids. If you look at her record versus individuals from her junior year and senior year, her junior year, her record would be 921-1. If we add all of the runners that run at the Manke, where thousands or a couple thousand runners actually run, and she runs the fastest time on that course, the record against Minnesota runners in 2004 would be 1,787-1. In 2005, she would be 929-1, 1,823-1 if we add the Manke. That's just in her high school in cross country. In her track career, running the 3,200 meters, she was second place in 2004. The girl that beat her had to set a state record to do it. That girl went on and won a national title in the 2 mile, and it was the only person that could beat Hanna in a race. The only person. In 2005, it's the same girl that beat her with state title in cross country that beat her again in the state title. Does Hanna give up? No, she goes on to the Midwest regional race. And this is girls from all over the country. And she takes 3rd place, defeating the girl that beat her in the state finals. She moves on and goes to run at the Foot Locker National Cross Country Race, a national meet. This is everybody in that entire country. So if you imagine there's 1,700 or some kids that's just beating in Minnesota, multiplied by 50. She places 7th in the nation. As an athlete, that is amazing. Amazing. she didn't just win, she absolutely dominated races. A classic, if you're running a 4K race, 16:30 for the time for 4K, which is just over 2.5 miles, just over 2.4 miles, just under 2.5 miles, I'm sorry, I'm not a math guy. Although I'm talking a lot about numbers here, which, so fact check me if you want, but, a good time in a 4K is about 16:30. You're going to place in the top 10, top 20 in most leagues. If you start running into the low 16s and getting to the 15s, you're placing in the top 10 in most leagues. If you run in the 15-30s, you're going to go to the state league. We had a girl that ran for us during Hanna senior year, running 15:36, she qualified for the state league. Hanna would win races the whole time. 14:09. Her average margin of victory during her junior year was 1 minute and 5 seconds. In those races. The second best runner out of hundreds of kids, 1 minute and 5 seconds. That's the average for the entire season. Phenomenal athlete. She starts to reach this political status for a lot of us. We like to talk about when Vertis falls during her junior year, and instantly a thunderstorm comes in. It's pouring rain. There's lightning flashing. There's a pool that she has to swim through at the end of the race. The wind is blowing in her face both directions. She's still winning the race, no problem. I mean, by the way, you ended up doing triathlons. This sort of thing. Cross-country races, I guess. We talked about mythical status. She is the only person I've ever seen at the beginning of a race, or the end of a race, or during a race, where junior high students are coming up and asking me to sign their shoes. Will you sign my shoes? And they were doing that. She was always all. I've had runners that run through that were really good. They could win races if they wanted to, and when they wanted to, they could. They were great. Hanna always was 100% full-on effort. She could not just run away. We were running a true team, there's Mike can attest to this. A true team meet where we want kids to score points by where you are in track and field. So if you win first, you get the maximum amount of points. But you only need to just win first for the team. Hanna couldn't do that. She was, I have to run as hard as I can. So she would run, we would have her running 1,600, an hour into the meet. And she would win that running as fast as she could. She'd come back about an hour and a half later and run the 3,200. And win that race, running as hard as she could. 15 minutes later, she would anchor our 4x400 team, 4x400 team running a 61-second anchor leg. People would lose their minds. She was so intimidating. We were like, holy cow, how do you do that? She was all out. I look at, we've had, during her senior year, she ended up getting kind of efficient. I've had athletes that that's happened to, other than Hanna, I can do 2 or 3 now. I'm not a bad coach. Not really bad. All those athletes have always had to take time out. They've missed meets, they've not been able to finish races. When you're iron efficient, you just do not have the energy that you used to have. Hanna never lost a race, despite being iron efficient. Times weren't as good as she wanted them to be, but was able to work through that. And all those things we talked about, she ran a 2:19, 800, 459 miles. She's a 10:43 2-miler. She's with a couple of the girls back there, plus Jordan, who's not here. 9:46 in the 4x8. She placed third in the 32:06, second in the 32:05, third in the 1600. Numbers are staggering. Impressive runner, a 3-time, 4-time for the state conference. All conference runner, 3-time in state. Champion, a 3-time all-state performer. But what, in my mind, sets her apart is who she is. You have the chance to sit and listen. And some of you guys have been funny. Mr. Elliott's funny all the time. I have to actually follow him now. I'm teaching juniors in high school, and he teaches sophomore social studies, and I have to follow him there. So, thanks for laughing. Boost your ego a little bit. But I heard Hanna laughing, and she has this little quiet laugh that it's almost a giggle, but it just, it makes me want to be a comedian. I just want her to laugh. She's one of the kindest people I've ever met. She asked me to speak for her. I can't get off the text. I'm so honored. And then Hanna comes and says, no, I'm honored you're on. And it's like, well, you hang up first. She's just absolutely, if I talk with Hannah, I must be feeling better about myself, even though I'm trying to make her feel better about her, or trying, not that I need to feel better about myself. I'm just trying to, like, she is extremely smart. Like, okay, this is the girl that actually draws pictures for kids' hideouts. Here's your best athlete, and she's doing the nicest drawing for any other kid on the team. And if we were going to have a Hall of Honor, and we maybe should think about that. I think we ought to honor our athletes. And Rob, I think you're right. This is what makes the bigger athletes great. I think, like, as people, there's so many people that are like really deserving of being in some sort of Hall of Honor person. And if we took the athletic accomplishments aside, these are great many. If you're actually just to Hall of Honor your person, you'd be one of my first selections, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, Hanna, good on.
Barb over there, you have always been an inspiration to me, and this is pretty cool that I can share that with her. In fact, when some people ask me, like, how did you get to be where you are? Or, like, how do you find that success? And I always say, like, genetics, man, it works. So it does. we're pretty lucky that way. So a few other people I want to thank, my parents. First of all, my mom, like, all of those stats, well, one, I didn't know them, but she definitely does not know them either. She would do anything for me to make me be the best that I could be. Somebody actually brought up tonight that I had this pre-race meal that I would always eat, and it was always pork chops and sweet potatoes. And I am a dietitian, and I cannot tell you anything about that meal that would make you run fast. But she did that every single race, even if I had like 3 races in a week. She'd be like, pork chops, here we go. She also would massage. So she does massage on the side of nursing, and she would massage before every single race. Like, she is my biggest fan, the biggest supporter. She doesn't care about how I do. I know no one really cares how I do. They just want me happy, but she really didn't care. My stepdad, he didn't miss a race. I know that Shane mentioned, and a few other people have mentioned that they had family members that did not miss. He didn't either. And every time I would come around the turn, he would say, "Go shorty." And people would look at him and be like, "What is that?" But I always knew, even though I'm like the same height now, I'm still shorty, I'm still this little redhead, and that just gives me so much pride. I have to give a huge thank you to Quayback. It was his personal mission to make me the best that I could be, and he walked this fine line of wanting me to not necessarily push a little hard, because he was right. I was super hardcore. I did everything. If he said run 7 miles, I ran 7.5. If he said let's go 10K or like 10 by 1,000 reps, I wanted to do 11. I think he might have, no, he didn't actually do this, but I think he probably wanted to pay somebody on the team, on the men's cross country team, to take me to prom, just to give me some more balance. Because I said no to somebody because I felt at the time that you couldn't go to prom and be fast. And I now think that's wrong, but apparently didn't. So I was very hardcore, but he did everything he we don't talk a ton, but when we do, it's like no time has passed. And that's not only somebody that feels like family to you, but it's just a really good friend. So he's the best. So if he thinks that like I should be in a Hall of Honor for that, like he should be in a Hall of Honor with me. And then on top of that, I have to thank my husband. And yes, he was not in my life in high school. Clearly, I went wrong. I didn't have a boyfriend. I didn't do anything but wrong. But I do want to say that he has both changed me and made me who I am today. And the person I am now is my favorite one. So, thank you. And thanks to all of you.
Well, you probably noticed all the good-looking girls down in the corner over there. They're the 2006-2007 girls basketball team, and I had the chance to follow them during the season and down to the state tournament. Thanks for that state tournament trip, by the way. Girls with gusto, theme for the team. They lived up to its second team ever to advance to the state tournament, fourth place finish in the Class 3A state tournament. They earned the Mid-State Conference title with a regular season record of 21-3. I'm going to call them up here by their name. Corey Loft, Abby Hodinson, Jenna Hansen, Allie Hodinson, Caitlin Berg, Danny Levine, Alexis Kaczmar, Macy Bentley, Annie Klein, also Robin Hutchinson, Morgan Loft, Cara Norby, Nicole Norby, Alice Brandon, Betsy Hutchinson, and of course they had student manager Sarah Blanco, Kelsey Bridgman, and their coaches. Aaron Swenson was an assistant, Calvin Malchow an assistant, and the head coach, of course, Mike Hoganson. So the team is up here, and Coach Hoagie, we're going to bring him up here to tell us the true story about this team.
Thanks, Andy. I'm breaking stuff already. Yeah, thanks, Andy, for that intro. The one thing I don't have to worry about is you guys looking at me. You're going to be looking at people right and left here. Thank you to the committee for selecting us and recognizing this team. I'm Coach Hoganson, and I'm lucky enough to coach these girls, and I'm honored to be able to welcome them into the Hall of Honor. Okay. I'd like to thank the committee again for recognizing this team. They finished fourth in state, 25-5 record. That's a lot of celebrating in a lot of great girls. I'd like to also recognize my coaching staff on the end there. Not nearly as good looking as the girls, but we got Coach Swenson and Coach Melchow. Coach Chris Swenson also was on our staff, and I believe that they were the best in the state. They did so much for the girls and myself, keeping me organized. But as far as planning, scouting, working with the kids in practice, strategies, they're outstanding. So thank you guys, I appreciate it. Would you give those to Chris? I'd like to quickly give a shout out to any youth coaches, whether you work with these young ladies, traveling teams, 3-on-3, skills, it doesn't matter. Please stand up if you would, if you took some time to work with these kids. I appreciate it. If you don't want to stand, that's okay, just wave. There's actually, I know there's others out there, but I do appreciate the time you made our lives easier. Next on my notes was to bring the team up. Thanks, Andy, you did that. see. This group was rewarding to coach for me. I was fortunate to be able to coach both my daughters. Hallie and Abby were on this team, and that was very rewarding for me to have both my daughters, like I said. But in reality, by the time the end of the season came, I had 17 daughters on this team. Thank you, girls. Okay, and again, I cried when we beat Wadena, so I'm going to try to hold it together here tonight. Some of the things about this team, they cared about each other so much. They were always there for each other on and off the floor. When one player was having a bad game, the other one, they picked each other up. I think over the course of the year, we had 6 different leading scorers. And that's pretty rare. It was a true sense, true meaning of what a team is. Now the strength of this team was how hard they played. They played hard every single night, every practice. The intensity level that they brought was crazy cool, and a lot of teams didn't have what they could, or couldn't match what they brought with the intensity. Oh yeah, they're pretty talented too. But one example of that intensity, I think it was about the 3rd or 4th game of the season, and one of my posts, I shouldn't say her name, Betsy, got a ticky-tack foul, and she was frustrated. She came back to the bench, and her comment was, if that's a foul, I might as well rip her face off next time. You have to play with some intensity. I probably know and work with that referee now. But ladies, thank you for everything you did for me. Thank you for putting Laker girls basketball on the map. Let's give these ladies a big round of applause. And I'd like to turn the mic over to the very capable hands of Jenna Hansen. Jenna's going to say a few words and probably some cool stories. Here we go, Jenna.
I must have been the dumb one who said I would speak tonight, so I'll give this a go. I also see my father instantly stood up to stand in the back, which is a typical basketball game move, making me nervous already. But on behalf of the team, I would like to thank the Athletic Foundation for hosting us this weekend and inducting us into this Hall of Honor. Before the pandemic postponed our festivities, Corey Locke became a Hansen, and during her wedding, many of the basketball parents were there, reminiscing, getting excited about this. Jerry Bentley had to convince my husband that yes, I was once athletic. He and other parents were telling us about how fast this team was and talking about stats that I honestly can remember from games. But we finished the season 25-5. 3 of our losses were to, in the regular season, was the class above to Mohr twice, and to Becker during a holiday tournament, who later went on to win our state tournament. It was an impressive year. Total points of 1,773, an average win of 83%. We allowed 1,372 points. We outscored our opponents at least by 16 points per game. We had 5 senior starters. Macy Bentley, our defensive queen. Corey Locke, who led our team at 442 points. Betsy Hutchinson crushed the boards at 210 rebounds. Maybe a face or two. Callie Wilkinson with a solid 124 assists. And I took the title of most steals at 67. Took it by 1 point. Took that one. D1. 9 sticks of chapsticks were stashed in Coach Manke and Hanna. We didn't have pockets, so it's always colored chapstick during practice. Thank you. We have 4 sets of sisters on the team. We traveled a total of 2,615 miles in the 06-07 season. Often streaming Carrie Underwood songs on the way home. That's a total of 41 hours of road time our parents did to make our away games. Thank you guys. I know that's a lot of work, but we're in the real world, we realize how hard that can actually be. 9 seniors graduated at the 06-07 season. season. And we finished the season with a 4th place finish at the state tournament, the highest finish of the Detroit Lakes girls basketball in history. An accomplishment our dads still talk about. But it has been 5,292 days since this group of girls have played together. Since then, we've had 18 girls graduate from DLHS and venture out to the real world. 10 of those girls went on and played college sports. 10. We have 6 master's degrees, 1 law degree, and a doctorate in pharmacy, a whole lot of healthcare, education, business, marketing, design, and lawyers make up this really talented group of girls. 15 are married. You are welcome, gentlemen. A combined total of 67 years of marriage for this crew. 2 of us married otters, sorry. And 22 babies make up this group. It's been fun reminiscing with my teammates this weekend. We truly are a bunch of sisters. We've been playing together since way back in the day. We're blessed to have such amazing support from our community, our parents, and our coaches. Nothing can replace good old-fashioned hard work. And let me tell you, I clearly recall holding in sweats, driving that into us every day, pre-season pressures, get on the line, every single time. That's why we're so fast. Thank you so much for the laughs, the Tank 8 goals, the life lessons, and for pushing us to be a great team. You guided us to work hard as a team from what you can see it paid off that season, and the list of accomplishments we've done since then. On behalf of the 2007 girls basketball team, thank you for this honor, your support, and most importantly, the chance for us all to get together again this weekend and have a great time.
We're going to take a team picture afterwards. One thing I forgot to mention, do we have any other former Laker Hall of Honor people here tonight? If they'd stand up so we can just, I know that some of them have come back for the banquet here. We've come to the end of our program, and last but not least is Jeff Mohr. Jeff coached football, cross-country, hockey, track, and field. He was a respected teacher. Who wrote that? For 17 years, just kidding, Jeff. During his tenure, he coached football, hockey, track, cross-country, assistant football, hockey coach, head coach for both cross-country and track. His accomplishments during his coaching career are countless, and his athletes cherished and appreciated him greatly. He was the head coach of the men's track team, won the Mid-State Conference twice in '81 and '86. And of course, he's been in just about every sport that we've had here in Detroit Lakes. This 1980 team was the first to win the Mid-State Conference, and the '82 team finished second in the region. The '86 team was the first team to beat Mohr both indoors and outdoors. And we're going to have some of his friends come up here tonight to talk a little bit about him too. Mark Fritz, Gary Hummel, and Todd Jorgensen would come up here with Jeff Mohr. Jeff, come on up. And everything these other guys talk about Jeff is all true.
I'm in his guide on the way. And now that the bar's been open for 4.5 hours, we're going to introduce Jeff Mohr. And you can read about in the program about his athletic history and his accomplishments as a coach. But for those of you who weren't around during this time, we'd like to help you understand just who Jeff Mohr is. Now, before I get into some of his eccentricities, let me say that Jeff played an important role in my life here in Detroit Lakes, one that I cherish. And to this day, he and his wife, Jan, are dear friends. I met Jeff Mohr in my first class of 7th grade, math class. It was the only math class I ever had where I might be running laps around the school. I can't remember if I was in trouble or if it was part of some math problem of one train leaving the station at one time. Now, witnessing one of his Phi Ed classes would really give you a good sense of his personality. Games we played that were of his invention included prison break, turkey shoot, and my personal favorite, murder ball. Football helmets required. As a 9th grader, I was one of his Phi Ed assistants. I would help prep the activities and essentially referee things. And in one of the early classes of the year, in the middle of explaining the day's activity to class, he stopped and said, "Hummel, quick, close the door before Maltrud sees us." Maltrud being Paul Maltrud, the principal. And I hear something like that a lot. "Just don't let Maltrud see you," or "Maltrud's not here. Let's do this." Being a kid in track and cross country was much like being in one of his Phi Ed classes. He would invent workouts that were essentially games, competitions, or contests to be enjoyed. He would be instructing as we ran around doing whatever, trying to follow some crazy rules that he had set up. But of course, he was making up the rules as everything was going on. And I know Tom Frank, our assistant coach, can attest to all the silliness, right, Tom? Yeah. So for us kids on his teams, we considered him a co-conspirator. A co-conspirator in flouting convention, school safety measures, and anything really that kept us from having a good time. He was the ringleader of numerous questionable activities in and out of the school's jurisdiction. I remember once when his wife, Jan, was questioning whether it would be okay with the school about what we were planning or something we were doing. And Jeff's stock response to the questions about details, especially the one about seeking permission, would be, we'll worry about that later. It's going to be fun. Jan would be left shaking in bed and watching her hands a little thing. Jeff was a promoter of fun with an incredible level of enthusiasm and a natural ability to create enthusiasm. And that's a rare thing, to be able to create enthusiasm in a bunch of adolescents. It allowed him to grow a cross-country team from about 20 to 120. So, Jeff was not a shining example of administrative discipline or integrity, nor a mature voice of reason. But he was the master promoter of enthusiastic participation on his teams, and all the kids loved him for it.
I'm Todd Jorgensen. I'm in the same class as Guy and Mark, and I also had Jeff Mohr for 7th grade math, and did some of the same activities. So, for some reason, Jeff wanted 3 people to introduce him. I think we get more stage time. So we could go on about all the qualities that made Jeff a great coach, deserving of this recognition. But I thought it would be interesting to explore some of the parts of his personality that would not otherwise be recognized here. He's not being recognized for following the rules. There are a few administrators and principals and athletic directors that we agree. He's not being recognized for his safety record. Although he was reportedly somewhat upset when a few of his student athletes were caught jumping off the top of the football bleachers into a football pit 30 feet below. We don't know where they got that idea. He's not being recognized for his bus driving skills. Although he was unofficially the second fastest bus driver in school. And was even known for door-to-door service. No one knew you could drive a school bus to within 3 feet of the school's doors. Make sure your athletes don't get lost or distracted on the way to meet. He's not being recognized for his creative ways to display a team trophy. One time, arriving back at the school late after winning a very big meet, he was so proud of his team and so excited to share the news with his athletic director that he screwed the trophy into the AD's door so he would see it first thing in the morning. He's not being recognized for being a hunting guide, even though he was known to rouse kids out of bed at 5 a.m. and take them out to hunt mallards and jackrabbits. He's not being recognized as a nutrition consultant, but he always had creative ideas for ways to improve performance. He even tested some of them himself. Sometimes marathon runners have to make emergency stops on the porta potty if GI distress. So one solution to this was to get a steak sandwich right before the race, because that usually comes me up. I don't think we heard the final results of that experiment. He's not recognized for his greenskeeping talents, even though he single-handedly built a 9-hole chicken wet golf course, where he hosted the annual Sioux 99 invitation tournament. Some of you got the record of playing that. He's not being recognized as a flight instructor or sailing captain, even though he regularly took kids out in heavy winds and trailer in his refurbished sailboat. Capsizing was a regular occurrence, and terror, learning, and fun were guaranteed. He even taught some of us how to fly in his little Cessna. I was surprised to hear that his most tenure as a track coach was only 9 years, because he had decades of influence on the generation of us kids. He never stopped teaching and coaching us. Thanks.
What a fun night it's been, you know, and thanks to the Athletic Foundation and it was Mike, Mark, and Rick that came up with this whole idea. We've got such a great community in so many ways. And thanks for inducting one of my favorite people in the world. You know, we were very excited to hear that. My name is Mark Fritz, class of 1982. I ran cross country and track for Coach Mohr. You know, the three of us, and probably about half the people in this crowd, we could spend hours talking Coach Mohr stories. And we won't because it's getting late, but we have been known to do that at duck camp or deer camp or out west skiing. So we have a lot of experience with that. But Jeff Mohr, a maverick, a rebel, a rule breaker, a renaissance man, at times a motivational speaker, a mechanic, a hunting guide, a pilot, a sailor, a bed race bed builder, a marathon runner, a race director, a loving husband, a good friend, a leader, and a coach. You know, I don't know that I remember how many meets we won or lost, any of that stuff, or what place I finished in any one meet, but I do remember how Coach Mohr made me feel, and that made all the difference. You know, he did that with so many people. And, you know, I was kind of a guy hiding in the back when I first started doing stuff. I was towards the back, and we hoped he would yell, but inevitably he would from across the way.
Fritz, catch that Staples
his name in there, and all of a sudden he'd get moving. That was one of his great secret powers, is that he could make all of his athletes feel very special, and that they all had the ability to contribute. And he went out of his way to make all of us on the bubble, 4th, 5th, 6th place runners, feel that we were special. And he would give as much material as Ralph Anderson or Andy did about us as the stars, so the Mark Fritzes, the Gieselbergs, the Shawns, the Pegasus, we got as much airtime. And that made all the difference in the world. And that's a sign of a great leader and a great coach. He knew how to build a team. So his energy and his enthusiasm at times, his belief in sometimes the impossible. Not to mention his rebel streak made him contagious. He made track and cross country fun, and that's no easy feat. Not at all. And because of that, we could walk through hot coals, or at least get every race, everything we had. I, like a lot of his athletes, told my kids Jeff Mohr stories when we were growing up. And a lot of them, Todd mentioned stuff, pushing a Volkswagen Bug from Burgess to DL. His recruitment tactics, his jackalope hunt, all those kind of things. And he was not only infectious to his runners and his athletes, but to his assistant coaches as well. Mr. Frank, Kenny A, Todd. Together with him, we were all a band of weird pranksters. And to illustrate how important all of this was to us, I told my kids, Coach Mohr would ever extended evening love.
Yeah.
There, that's all right. Okay. Thank you. To illustrate how important he was to all of us, I told my kids growing up, if Coach Mohr would ever send an email out to the hundreds of kids that he coached, and were to say, hey guys, I'm in a pickle down here, I need some help, that 100 middle-aged men, and they would drop everything, they'd hop on the next plane self-help, because he meant that much to all of us. He did so, he coached with gusto, life, and passion. He cared for and was genuinely interested in all of us. And that was evident in the way he lived. He did so for Hutch, Sappy, and I when we were in the lawnmower business. We had this lawn business, and Jeff and Jan's garage was filled with a fleet of Briggs and Stratton lawnmowers. He was our mechanic. He kept them all running. And at the end of the week, we'd drop off a bunch, and we'd pick up a bunch the next day. And stuff. He never asked for anything, never asked to be paid, other than a thank you. He introduced a whole generation of young guys to hunting that would have never known the wonder of sitting in a duck blind and watching the sunrise, and watch mallards with the decoys. They're guys now, they're just fanatical about hunting, and they're planning their time and vacations around hunting season. A lot of those guys have never been involved in that. They say it takes a village, and I really believe that to be true. Your parents, your teachers, your friends, your siblings, and if you are lucky, you get to throw a good coach in there too. Everyone should have the good fortune of playing for or competing underneath a great coach. We did. Ours was Coach Mohr. Coach, you always said, in the end, I don't want to be judged by how many meets we won or lost, or how many trophies we collect. In the end, it's how many boys that turn into men. By that account, Coach, you won in spades.
small spark of madness. We mustn't lose it. It was difficult to be the coach of two sports that nobody likes. I think if I had a show of hands out here, how many of you like running? I don't think anybody would raise their hand really hand. I think Gene Theobald's quote said it best. He was talking about the marathon, and he said, if you start feeling good during a marathon, don't worry, you'll get over it. I think Dave Stoneman and I ran a little over 10,000 miles together. We ran about 20 marathons or more together, and we definitely found out that statement held true. I think it was Denny Berry one time that asked me, he said, Jeff, how many kids do you think it takes to make a good track team? And I said, 3. And he looked at me and he said, 3, there's 19 events, you can't even cover them with all 3. I said, no, Denny, you're looking at it all wrong. I said, the first kid you need on your team is the best athlete in the school. If you can get the best athlete in the school to come off the track and field, you're going to have a great track team. Well, in the 2000s, that was Todd Jorgensen. Or not 2000, 1980. That was Todd. And I said, the second kid you need on your team is another great athlete who is probably the most well-liked kid in school. Because if you can get that person to come out, all the other guys are going to follow them, and you have a lot of kids out. And when you have a home track meet, the bleachers are going to fill with all the lovely young ladies, and you're never going to have to worry about ticket sales. Well, at that time, that was probably Guy Hummel. Guy Hummel delivered on the first part, the lovely ladies in the bleachers, but we didn't really have a chance, an opportunity to really figure that part out because we had a cinder track at the time and nobody wanted to come and run on it, so we never had any home track meets. And I said the last kid you need is someone whose parents are very well connected in the community and are somewhat well off. And I wasn't sure if that was Mark Fritz or not, but I had Tom as a dentist, and every time I went to him, I either needed a bridge, a crown, a filling, an extraction, or a cleaning, and I figured if he wasn't close to one of the most well-off guys in town, he had to be all damn close. But in all fairness to Tom, he did give me a 10% discount if I didn't take the Novocaine. I think he thought that hockey players they were either really tough or they didn't have enough teeth in their mouth anyway, so they didn't have it. Well, I never had a chance to approach Tom for that last gift, but there was one time when I didn't get what I was asking for as a coach, and that was in the spring of 1982, and these guys were seniors. Del called me into his office. Del was the athletic director at the time. And when Del called me into his office, he went, Mohr. He never called me by my first name, because I think he knew at some point in time he was going to have to fire me, so he didn't get too close. So he called me in and he said, last night the school board, they decided to add girls cross country. And because of Title IX, they wanted to equal all the sports. I said, oh, that's great, Del. It would be really nice to visit with a women's track cross country coach on distance running. And he looked at me and said, no, you're it. I said, what do you mean you're it? He said, the school board hired me to be the girls cross country coach. I said, me? I didn't even apply for the job. I said, that doesn't matter, you're it. Well, with all the crap I've given Del over the years as an assistant hockey coach under John Jacobson and Ken Anderson, I figured I'd better take the job. So I said, well, but I do need an assistant coach. Del said, well, I'll see what I can do. Then he flipped 3 papers in front of me over the budgets. Budget for boys and girls cross country and boys track. And he said, I need these by Friday. This is Tuesday. So Friday rolls around, Del calls me into his office and he says, got your budget stuff? said, yeah. So I handed him the boys' track list, and he looked at that and stamped that one, okay. I handed him the boys' cross-country one, and he looked at that one and said, okay. Then I handed him the girls' cross-country budget. And he looked at that for a few minutes, and he turned the paper around, and then he pushed it back at me, and he said, what's this on line 5? I said, line 5. So I looked at it and said, oh, that's 15 jogging bras. And Del burst out laughing. Del's still laughing. Now you gotta remember, this is 40 years ago, and nobody's heard what a jogging bra is. They have no idea. In fact, I ordered them just to see what they were like anyway. So anyway, when he finally quit laughing, I turned the paper on and pushed it back at him. I said, I'd like it all smalls, please. And Del burst out laughing again. And when he finally quit, he leaned forward and put his arms on his desk and looked at me and he said, he gave me the old football speech. Now those of you that were football coaches like Mr. Manke, never got the old football speech. It was all the rest of us. I got the football speech. So he looked at me and he said, we don't buy jock straps for the boys' football team. We're sure as hell not going to buy jogging bras for the girls' cross-country team. And I said, Del, it's not the same. He said, it's the same. And I said, no, it's two different parts of the anatomy. It's not the same. Del said it was the same, and that was the end of that. So, when I was getting up to leave, he said, oh, by the way, I found you an assistant coach for girls cross country. And I said, well, great, who is she? Miss McLeod, he said. I said, Miss McLeod, isn't he a baseball coach? And Del said, yeah. And I said, well, how's it going to help with locker room supervision? Del said, oh, don't worry about that. And I said, well, what does he know about distance running? Del said, well, he hit a home run once and had to run on more bases. Of course, Mitch left the following year, and we're back in the same situation again, looking for another assistant coach. And I get close to the start of the season, I said, Del, you might be found an assistant coach. And now I'm looking. So about a week later, he calls me in and says, I've got you an assistant coach. I said, great, who is she? Tom Frank. Now, for those of you that know Tom Frank, I don't think I have to go any further. Well, anyways, I didn't know Tom at the time, but I said, well, Tom, isn't he a swimming coach? And I said, yeah. I said, well, how's he going to help with locker room supervision? So I'll don't worry about that. And I said, well, what does he know about distance running? Del said, well, he was in the military and he ran 5 miles of combat boots. I said, well, that's about 100 times further than Mitch ran, so I guess. Well, about a year later, we were looking for another assistant coach for track. It wasn't for cross-country, because Tom and I got to be great friends and love him dearly. But I approached Del about a year later and I said, you know, there's all the other coaches have got 3, or all the other teams, sports have got 3 coaches, except track. How come? He said, well, I'll see what I can do. So about a week later, he said, I found you an assistant coach for boys track. I said, great. Who is he? Kathy Fritz. You see, I was just asking it all wrong. And then almost said that I wasn't a master of public relations. But how can you be a master of public relations when you've got someone that's even throwing your curveballs all the time? So anyways, Kathy became the first cross-country coach or track coach rather, the first coach actually of the boys team. So we had a great time together. Well, I can tell you all kinds of stories. Maybe just give you one more if you can stand it. It doesn't really have anything to do with athletics. It doesn't really have anything to do with Detroit Lakes at all, I'll tell you, it's from my generation. In the mid-60s, Ford launched the Mustang, and it's setting all kinds of sales records. And Lee Iacocca is the president of Ford at the time, and he said, I want to build a car that's going to challenge the Chevrolet Corvette. So he hired Carroll Shelby to do it. And so they were meeting out in LA one day, and Shelby walked into the room, and he overheard a group of engineers off on the side discussing what they were going to call this new Mustang. So he walked over to him and asked him, he said, do any of you guys know how far this new building we're in over to the airplane hangar? Because he was building these Mustangs at an old airplane hangar at LAX. And of course they said no, they had no idea. And so then he asked one of them if he wouldn't mind going downstairs and pacing it off. So the guy said, sure, I'll go down there. So one guy left the room, and of course everybody in the room looked at him, what the hell's he wanting that for? So about 10 months later, the guy comes back, and the room goes dead calm silent. And Shelby turns to me and says, well, how far was it? He said, 348 paces. And Shelby said, okay. He turned to the rest and he said, we're going to call this new Ford, the Mustang GT 350. He just rounded it off from 348 to 350. And then he said this, the name, gentlemen, does not make the product. The product will make the name. What you had here tonight were products, if you will, of Independent School District number 22 in the city of Detroit Lakes. There are people that have not only made a name for themselves, but they've helped put Detroit Lakes on the map, because Detroit Lakes in and of itself cannot do that. Only its people, only its products can do that. Like Abraham Lincoln made Illinois the land of Lincoln, or Judy Garland made Grand Rapids, Minnesota the home of the world of Oz. It's the people. And if you're not sure about that, you can take a look at what Adam Thielen has done, just in publicity. And if you're still not sure about it, you can look around at each other, because each and every one of you have added to this community. And as Lynn Hull mentioned in an article, Detroit Lakes has a soul. This is the soul right here. And Carroll Shelby also realized, though, that without Ford's financial backing, without their engineers, without the facilities, the management, that there's no way in hell he was going to build a Mustang that was going to challenge the Chevrolet Corvette. And so, too, it is each and every one of us who have stood up here tonight understand that we didn't get here by ourselves. There were a lot of people that helped us along the way. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for that. Jen and I never had any kids, so your kids became our kids. And we absolutely loved them. It didn't matter if they were really, really good ones or not so really good ones. I actually like the not so really good ones better, because they reminded me of myself. There's so many people to thank, and I literally am not going to go down that path, and I'd love to, but I have to start with the phone book and start with the letter A and move to Z. So I'm really only going to mention 3 people, and besides the committee, thank you so much, but I want to mention my wife Janet, who's been my wife or I've been her husband, maybe, I'm not sure. For 50 years, we just celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. I spent 17 years in education, and Janet spent 45. And she was everything from a substitute teacher to a superintendent, and in 3 different school districts. And she finished her career as the executive director for the Board of School Administrators. And her job was to oversee the licensure of all the state's K-12 principals and superintendents. And not only that, monitor the colleges and what courses they were teaching them. So it was a daunting task, to say the least. But I'm very glad that she finished in that job, because I found out that some of the state's principals and superintendents really weren't that nice, and made me look like Michael the Archangel. So I Anyways, when she finished at the state and she retired, they did give her the Distinguished Service Award for the state of Minnesota in education. And in the 60 years that that award's been given out, only 3 women have ever received the award. The last 2 people, I guess I want to thank are my mom and my dad, which are not here. Obviously, without them, I wouldn't be here. But I would never have made it into the Hall of Fame at Superior or the Hockey Wall of Honor without them. And I remember my mom probably knit 10,000 pairs of socks and mittens for kids who were, and not only kids, but for anyone who needed a pair of mittens and socks. And she had that pattern figured out in her head. She didn't need the paper. She could do them in about an hour. She gave them all away, handed them to people. And there were times in our little house in Superior, Wisconsin, that we passed through a small bedroom. It was the second bedroom of my brother's bedroom. Mine was upstairs in the attic, like everybody had their attic finished off. And but as we went by, there was usually somebody in the bed that was dying or needed some assistance. And sometimes when we passed by them, we'd give them a hug and a kiss. We never knew if they were going to be there in the morning or not. But there were 10 or 12 people that she took care of. There were no nursing homes at that time. But some were friends, some were relatives. But the compassionate side of me, I guess, came from my mom. My dad, on the other hand, is a different part. My dad worked for Falk Paper Company in Duluth, Minnesota. And Falk Paper Company distributed paper products to the whole region. And he worked 38 years for Falk Paper Company. He never missed a day of work. And which is unbelievable in and of itself. So the dedication, the perseverance, the loyalty, those are all the things that I got from my dad. But when Falk Paper Company, when he retired, Falk Paper Company gave him a plaque, and it's a plaque very similar, and all the plaques and awards and trophies and medals and things that I had a chance to accumulate over the years. This is the one that I love the most. And what it says on it is, to George Mohr, that's my dad's name, Falk's finest, for 38 years of service, 8 years of work, and 30 years of bullshit. And here you thought I was going to say something profound. Well, that's where I get the bullshit side. Anyways, Jenna and I just love each and every one of you so much. And we were just so fortunate to land here, like most of you as well. So we want to thank all of you from the bottom of our heart for everything you've done for us. Thank you.